I'm Liz, and due to an unexpected turn of events, I found myself tied to the most extraordinary man I've ever met, Alex. We're both 28 proud owners of our snug little home, dutifully paying our bills while shaping a life that's distinctly ours. It's been a year since we said our vows, and honestly, life has been rather delightful, except for one nagging issue: Alex's parents. Now, I never imagined I'd step into the role of the heroic daughter-in-law clad in shining armor, but I also didn't expect to be cast as the family's unwanted intruder. My first meeting with my in-laws felt like stepping into a predator's lair with a target pinned to my throat. Jane, my mother-in-law, had a talent for inspecting me as if debating whether I was more of a nuisance or simply uninteresting. It was clear she'd already judged me before I could even say hello. Alex had cautioned me about his mother's strong-willed nature on our drive to their house that initial time, suggesting I not take it too much to heart. Despite my attempts during dinner as I casually passed the salt, Jane pounced on the moment to wax nostalgic about Stephanie's cooking talents, addressing me indirectly. Alex, visibly uneasy, responded to her comments without looking my way. Feeling like a ghost at the table, I masked my unease with a stiff smile. When I hesitantly praised Stephanie's culinary gifts, Jane's grin didn't warm her eyes. She seemed to be sizing me up against a memory. Later, I told Alex how judged I felt. He pulled me close, comforting me with the assurance that I was his choice. Unbeknownst to me, Jane was weaving a more elaborate scheme, and I was unknowingly her pawn in this family game of strategy. Living with a severe allergy isn't just bothersome, it's like having a constant companion murmuring threats in your ear. Since I was young, peanuts have been my fierce foes, once landing me in the ear after a single taste of peanut spread. As a result, my parents were given a stark instruction: protect me from peanuts and a host of other foods: soy, peas, cherries, almonds, tomatoes, apricots, bananas, and even potatoes. It's a roster that surprises servers and makes friends pause before inviting me over for a meal. Jane knows this lengthy list well, yet she challenges the limits every time we eat at her place, her voice wavering between care and skepticism, hinting I might sneak a taste despite the risks. At one family event, she swore her casserole was safe, only for Alex to spot a dangerous ingredient. We politely stepped away, leaving the dish untouched, but the moment stuck as a minor triumph in a relentless struggle where Jane controlled the game. I've learned to tread this allergen-filled world carefully, treating every dining experience like a tactical mission. Alex, ever my pillar, navigates this food-laden battlefield with me, constantly affirming that my vigilance is warranted. Still, Jane's subtle digs persist beyond the dining room. Her messages carry a cautionary edge, noting that not everyone takes my condition seriously. It's more than a slight. It's a nudge at my fragility, a hint that she sees my allergy as a flaw to exploit. Meals at Jane's are staged events, like a performance where everyone knows their parts except the unsuspecting star, me, the daughter-in-law. I was the unknown factor, the rogue piece that could unwittingly spark chaos with one bite. Alex tried to smooth things over, but there's only so much you can do on someone else's territory. One evening, the air was thick with strain as heavy as the sauce on the table. Jane flitted about, setting out dish after dish. I sat with an empty plate, nervously waiting to figure out what was safe to eat without landing in the hospital. Alex, ever supportive, handed me the green beans, saying, "They're simply heavenly." Jane's tone oozed a sweetness that didn't touch her eyes as she watched me eye the beans. "What's in them?" I inquired. "Oh, just a sprinkle of almond slivers for texture," she replied, brushing it off. I stopped Alex mid-reach. "I can't have those. Almonds are off-limits for me, Jane." Feigning shock, hand to her heart, she said, "Oh my, I must have slipped up, how silly of me." Alex rose, his chair scraping loudly, his voice tight with irritation. "Mom, this is serious. Liz could end up in the ER." Jane's eyes narrowed faintly as she shot back. "I just wanted to make something special. It's not my fault Liz has all these allergies." The room hushed awkwardly, forks stilled and shy glances darted around. Mark, Alex's dad, tried to lighten the mood. "Let's just enjoy the meal, folks. There's plenty Liz can have." But the harm was done. The rest of the night dragged on in forced civility, with Jane probing about my allergies as if cataloging them for later. When Alex and I were alone later, he apologized. "I'm sorry, Liz. I should have checked everything beforehand." "Tired of being treated like a burden," I replied. "It's not on you, but I'm starting to think your mom does this deliberately." He stayed silent. He didn't need to say it. We both knew Jane was dishing out spite with every meal and I was the main target. I could always tell when Jane had been working on Alex. He'd get this far-off look as if peering past me, balancing her words against his own thoughts. That night, a shadow seemed to settle over him and I sensed it before he spoke. "My mom thinks we should think about, well, she feels we might not be planning for the future enough," Alex mumbled, avoiding my gaze as he toyed with the remote. "The future?" I asked, a pit forming in my stomach. "Yeah, kids and your health concerns," he went on, the word concerns lingering awkwardly between us. "She brought up my allergies again, didn't she?" He sighed, setting the remote aside. "She's just worried, Liz. She thinks it's a lot for us, especially if we want kids." I stiffened, asserting, "We've discussed this. I've managed so far, haven't I? Plenty of people with allergies raise families." Alex ran a hand through his hair, a telltale sign of stress. I know, she just has this way of planting doubts." The room fell silent, the tension thick. I took his hand, our fingers lacing together. "We're not arguing, we're a team, right?" He nodded, pulling me into an embrace. "You and me against the world, yeah?" "Yeah," I said, but as I held him I couldn't shake the sense that Jane's words were like weeds, poised to overrun the precious life we'd built. My pregnancy news was a joyful shock for Alex and me, but a tangled one for others. When we shared it with his parents, Jane's reaction was like watching a machine attempt human warmth. A pause, then a smile that didn't fit. "We're having a baby, Mom," Alex said, his tone blending pride and wariness. "That's wonderful," Jane managed, the words sounding odd on her tongue. "We must have a family dinner to celebrate." But celebrations at Jane's were never just that. I saw the hope in Alex's eyes, though. The dinner night came and the house hummed with relatives. Jane played the flawless hostess, gliding from guest to guest. When she reached us, her smile was rehearsed. "Congratulations, Liz. What a happy moment." "Thank you, Jane," I replied, mirroring her formality. Alex slid his arm around my waist, a quiet thanks for going along. As dinner neared, that familiar dread crept in. A table laden with food was a danger zone for me, but I hoped tonight might differ. The spread was lavish and I felt every stare as I wavered, my hand hovering over choices. "Go ahead, dear," Jane coaxed. "Eat up, you're eating for two now." I gave a faint smile, picking the safest bets. Veggies and rice, plain and plain. But as I reached for bread, Jane halted me. "Actually, maybe not that one. I'm not sure if the baker used soy flour." I stopped, bread in hand, meeting her eyes. There was a glint there. Care or maybe a test. "Thanks for the heads up," I said, setting it down, but alarm bells rang. How did she know about soy flour? It felt too convenient, too staged. The meal blurred by, with toasts mixing with glass clinks, yet I couldn't shake the sense that Jane's kindness masked a snare, primed for the perfect moment. The family dinner for our future child was a grand affair. Jane had outdone herself, crafting a feast that dwarfed a Thanksgiving spread. But my stomach knotted, not from hunger. Every dish seemed a lurking threat, a silent foe that could send me to there. As we sat, lively chatter buzzed, typical family tales and gossip. Jane, at the table's head, ruled the banquet like a monarch. She tapped her glass for silence. "Before we start, I want to say how delighted we are to celebrate Liz and Alex's growing family," she declared, her voice steady. Cheers and claps followed, and I forced a grin, feeling Alex's hand squeeze mine beneath the table. "Thanks, everyone," I said. We're so excited for this next step. The meal began and I picked cautiously, sticking to the basics. Alex watched, concern creasing his brow. You okay? He whispered. Yeah, just playing it safe, I replied, nudging a roasted potato on my plate. Jane's gaze pinned me like a bug under glass. Liz, you haven't tried the salad. The dressing's separate, just how you like it, she said, her cheer sounding strained. Thanks, Jane, I'm just not hungry tonight, I dodged, wary of hidden allergens. As the night wore on, tension mounted. Each offer from Jane spiked my nerves, the room growing stifling. Then came the cake, a stunning tower of sponge and cream that drew gasps. Jane sliced it, handing me a piece with a smile that might have fooled me once. For the mom-to-be, she said. I really shouldn't, I said, glancing from cake to Alex to Jane, but it looks amazing. Oh, come on, Liz. One bite won't hurt for the baby, Jane urged, her voice syrupy. That's when Mark intervened, knocking the plate from my hands. The cake hit the floor and a stunned hush fell. What the hell, Dad? Alex snapped, anger and bewilderment in his tone. Mark stood pale but resolute. I saw the label in the trash. That cake's got peanut oil. The room erupted. Jane's face flashed shock, but her eyes hinted at something deeper. Fear, perhaps guilt. Alex leapt up, chair crashing back. Mom, did you know? Her mouth moved but no sound came. In that instant, the truth shone as stark as the danger on my plate. The silence after Mark's bombshell was deafening, the fallen cake a grim exhibit on the floor. All eyes fixed on Jane, who seemed to wilt under the scrutiny. Mom, is it true? Did you know? Alex's voice sliced through, sharp and insistent. Jane looked away, jaw tight, a flicker of panic in her eyes. Maybe she saw she'd not just risked my life but her bond with Alex, her standing, everything. The night dissolved into a haze of shouts, tears and quiet talks as the family grappled with the fallout. Alex and I left early, the evening's weight pressing down. We barely spoke on the drive home. What was there to say? The mask of a cordial if not joyful family had cracked. The ride was steeped in a thick quiet, brimming with unspoken words. When we stepped inside, the night's chaos still echoed. Alex broke the stillness first. I can't believe my own mom would do that, he said, voice empty. I sank onto the couch, its comfort lost on me. I know it's a lot, he said, sitting beside me, clasping my hands. I'm so sorry, Liz. This is unforgivable. I met his pained gaze, my heart aching. It's not your fault, Alex. We couldn't have guessed she'd go this far. But the truth hung there. Jane had crossed a line and there was no undoing it. The family splintered. Some rallied to us, horrified by Jane's deed, while others wrestled with the reality. The next days swirled with Alex's phone buzzing. Relatives offering shock, support, apologies. Jane's silence roared loudest. No regrets, no words. A week later, Alex shared, Dad's left her, he can't move past this, a hint of sorrow in his voice. It's been brewing a while. I wasn't sure what to feel, relief, grief, pity? And Jane? I asked softly. She's not coping, she's alone now, he said, regret tinging his words. We sat in our living room, surrounded by walls we'd painted, furniture we'd chosen together. Our home, our love. Outside, a storm loomed, threatening to upend all we knew. Then I realized, no matter what, we had each other. A team soon to welcome a new life. That's what counted. I love you, Liz, Alex said, drawing me near. I love you too, I murmured back. The ripples from that night would linger, the wounds on our family slow to mend. But gazing at Alex, at our life and the journey ahead, I knew we'd face any tempest together. As for Jane, she was a page we'd turned, a tale we wouldn't let shape us. From here it was us, our baby, and the path forward. Whatever it held, we'd meet it head on.